Good afternoon. My name is Rue. Thank you so much for having me on this Lunch and Learn. Um, I have been a little nervous to share today because I've been excited, yes, to be able to see all of you, but also to share my story. But at the same time, I am my life has been very heavily involved with Eastlight, so it's those nerves about sharing parts of your life with friends and colleagues. So please bear with me if I stumble over my words a little bit. I thought I would start by properly introducing myself to those who have never met me or have never heard my story. I moved to Essex 10 years ago, fleeing domestic abuse. And at the time, I had a 3-year-old. We moved from Bedfordshire. At the time of our move, we had 11 reported incidences with the police, over 2 boroughs, and no official charges had been brought up. I was subject to MAROC, and I was considered a high-risk victim. When we arrived in Essex, we lived in a next chapter home. And that journey for me, from getting from where I was to being in the next chapter home, took me 5 years. It took me 5 years because I really didn't understand how the system worked. I didn't feel like I had anybody to ask. And, coming from my community, it's not something that we openly speak about. Domestic abuse is something that's seen as the norm, and but also people are ashamed to kind of share with family members or friends about what is happening within their home. So I just kind of kept it to myself, and I prayed about it and fasted about it, and nothing was changing, until I realized that actually, but from sitting and listening to other women, older women, people from church, just kind of like, this is how men are, and you just have to try and be better yourself so that you don't make him upset, so that he doesn't hurt you or he doesn't treat you bad, and that wasn't true, because actually, no, we what we have learned from working with domestic abuse survivors is that, and victims, is that no matter what you're doing to try and make them not hurt you, it's ultimately their decision to do whatever they do to you. Putting that kind of burden on women, I don't think is productive or helpful. But thankfully, I was supported by a manager of my daughter's nursery who, I don't know, I just went into the nursery one day and I just had a breakdown in the office. And I told her everything, and I just spoke about what was happening. And she made a referral for me to the Freedom Program. And it was through the Freedom Program that I actually got a better understanding as to what was happening to me and what were my possible options in terms of where were we going to live. So we were living in a rented property at the time, privately rented. I was the sole tenant and responsible for all of the bills. I was unemployed at the time, I was studying for my level 2 diploma in hairdressing, in hair and beauty. So the thought of me starting to think about where am I going to get a deposit? Where am I going to find the rent? How am I going to move? All of those complexities they were some of the main reasons why I stayed, because I was like, I've got a baby. I can't just be uprooting my baby. But also I didn't have an understanding of how domestic abuse services worked, things like the refuge. What happens when you go to the refuge, or when you need to seek refuge? I didn't have that information. But from going to the Freedom Program, a lot of options became available, a few options became available to me. And I feel that it was because I knew I had somewhere to go. I even though I didn't know what it was going to be like or what the experience was going to be, but I just kind of threw caution to the wind and took that chance. And we arrived here on the 22nd of April, 2014. And I know that specifically because it was 2 days after my birthday. And it was a surreal experience because what I was expecting, I don't know. To be fair, in my head, I just thought it's gonna be some kind of hostel looking place that's dirty and just I don't know. But when I got there, the off duty practitioner met me, and she took me to this. She opened the door to this flat, and it was a self-contained flat with a double bunk bed, TV, a little table, a little sofa, and there was a separate shower bathroom and a separate kitchen. And she just said, this is your new home for now. And I remember it was clean, it smelled amazing. I was really worried about that. Cleanliness is a thing. So, but I came armed with all of my detergents, everything, just so that I could make sure, even if it was dirty, I'd make sure that I'd clean it to my standard. And my daughter was so excited. She was little, so she didn't know really what. She didn't really have a really good understanding of what was going on. She was just excited about the new house. She was excited about the bunk beds, that me and her could finally be sleeping in the same room, all of those kinds of things. And the first night was challenging. I remember putting her to bed and just lying in the bottom bunk, just praying to God and saying, I don't know what to do. I've hit rock bottom, but if you give me the opportunity to get out of this situation in one piece, I promise that I will dedicate my life to helping other women and children like myself and my daughter. And funny enough, when I was in the refuge, I started doing some of the girls' hair. I used to give cards for free, just as a way of practicing. I'd give cards, eyebrow tints, just just the small little things, just a trim. And the joy that it brought to the women and the girls there was just immeasurable. And I fell in love, and I began to have a passion for advocating for women who have spent so many years being restricted and abused and having their freedom taken away from them. I wanted to be that voice. Ladies, we know, I don't know if this happens with men too, but ladies, once you've had a little something done to you, even if it's just eyelashes, something, even a facial, you can't stop looking at yourself. It's kind of restores that confidence in you. And for me, it was like my confidence in myself and my abilities and my skills was being restored in those moments. But also, I was also giving something to these ladies who haven't felt seen probably for, many, many years. So I lived in the refuge for 3 months, and we moved into an Eastlight property. My aim was for us to be in a property before September, because my daughter was starting school in September. She was turning 4 and she was starting school. And so I started bidding, and I found a property. Was it my first choice? No, it wasn't. But at the time I thought, because in my head, I think a lot of people, when you work in housing, you understand the housing market and you understand the constraints that come with getting a specific property that somebody may want. But when you're just a service user, you're just like, well, why am I not getting a house? Why I wanted a house with a garden and I didn't get that. I got a ground floor flat, which I absolutely love. But at the time, it was, I don't know, it was a thing. It was challenging for me. And also I was moved onto an estate, quite a big estate. And at the time, it was quite a notorious estate for so many different things. And I just felt at the time where I was supposed to feel quite safe, I didn't feel as safe, because I actually didn't understand what I needed for me to feel safe. Yes, I was in a house, but actually, did I feel safe? No, I didn't. And it was then up to me to figure out what was it that was going to keep me safe in my home. What was it that was going to allow me to enjoy this space and actually grow in this space and make it home, basically. So I was very close to my housing officer, Claire Bennett. She used to come around. I used to talk to her about my dreams and what I wanted to do. And I remember at the time Eastlight was Cone, and they had this fund for community stuff where you could apply. And what I wanted to do was, I realized that a lot of the girls that were leaving the refuge were actually remaining in the area, and a lot of the times were in Cone properties. So I thought, why not create something like a sort of peer support group? Really, I did it because I wanted to make friends, but also I wanted to make friends for my daughter. So I started a coffee morning at my local church, and that was absolutely successful and so amazing. And it went on for a good number of years, just self-funded. You know, a lot of the girls that I met then, I'm still quite close to now. Our kids have kind of grown up together. So it really gave me my first sort of feel of like stability, because, you know, I don't know if as professionals we realize how much of it, you know, that time between when a woman moves out of the refuge and into safety, into a permanent home, it's a very, very dangerous time, because, you know, for a lot of us, for the first time, we are responsible for bills, we're responsible for everything, and nobody's telling us what to do. So actually, instead of us, instead of the, you know, the normal expectation that you are in a safe home, so actually now you should be in control of your life and doing your own thing. It's not, that transition is not that seamless. I remember I used to, whenever I was out, I'd be rushing to come home before 7, because when I was in the refuge, your fob stopped working at 7. So actually, if you're outside after that, you might have some challenges. But after I moved into my house, I was still doing the same thing. So there's certain habits, certain things that we have to unlearn and also relearn, like how to be fully responsible for ourselves, how to feel safe even when we're by ourselves. Having that peer support group was a really great opportunity for me to connect with other women and for us to just empower and encourage each other. I also saw the value of having a stable home, because then I actually started making decisions like, what kind of paint do I want? Just for reference, when I first moved into my house, every single room was painted a very bright and fluorescent color. My living room was orange, my bedroom was purple. I think my daughter's room was like all fuchsia walls and carpet. And it was almost like an expression of, I don't know, a sort of childlike expression of, this is now mine, and this is where we live, and this is our home. So we can do whatever we need to do to make ourselves comfortable. And because I kind of staked claim on my home, I started to feel quite connected to it, in the sense that I felt stable enough to be able to go back to college, finish my diplomas. So I currently have 4 diplomas in hair and makeup and beauty. I started a business called Shades of Beauty Essex, which is on the next slide, that says my time in Essex. I also started a podcast about 4 years ago when COVID hit, because, you know, we couldn't meet in person anymore. So I needed some way of reaching the girls and still, you know, remain connected. So I decided to go online and start speaking and sharing my experiences. And the podcast is called Remarkable Women. I share my experiences of being a Black African woman in the UK, my experiences with domestic abuse, my experiences as a mother. And it has really grown into a very supportive community that I honestly never realized that it was going to be. I have more friends and sisters now than I did when I first moved here, and it's not just about friends and sisters. It's a stronghold of women, strong women and mothers, and, you know, who are, some of them are raising children alone, some of them have met new partners, but we're all on this healing journey together. So, you know, as you know, healing is not linear. So sometimes you can think, oh, you know, I'm over the hill, and then something happens or you see something. So for example, I had a letter from my old housing in the borough that I left 10 years ago, reminding me that I had an outstanding bill for council tax. And that was such a triggering thing for me, because also another thing is that women who face domestic abuse may also be facing financial abuse, in the sense that maybe they're paying all the bills and he's not helping, but he's controlling everything. So therefore you end up in debt, which is what was happening to me. I was the one that was in charge of everything. All the bills were in my name. He would never put anything in his name. And because of that, I then suffered debt, and that affected my credit score. So even when I did move into my new property, I'm even till now, I'm still struggling to kind of clear that some of that stuff off. So as we work with victims and survivors, let's be mindful of, some of the information that you may think that is just like, oh, I'm reminding you of something that you need to pay for. But actually, there's a lot that goes with that statement that you just made, or that letter that you've just sent me. That took me out for at least a couple of days. I now started remembering the house, started to remember what happened there, So let's be mindful of how, and be sensitive to how we approach certain issues and how we address certain issues, especially when we're working with survivors and victims of domestic abuse. I was actually thinking about it the other day. So July 2024 marks 10 years of me being in this house. And I was so proud of myself, because I've never maintained anything for 10 years, except for my child. So to me, I was really proud of myself that I was able to maintain my tenancy. I have been, paying for my bills by myself. And it's, Eastlight have been an integral part of that, because even when I've been in arrears or when I've struggled financially, I've always had that support. They will talk to you and come up with a plan on what we can do. They'll signpost you to services and things. So my passion then became housing. Housing, affordable social housing, is such a massive part of the healing journey and the journeys of women who face domestic abuse. Because when you don't have that house and you don't have somewhere stable to stay at, or you are given a house and then you are not able to maintain that tenancy, that creates a whole set of problems in itself. Then you're homeless again, or you're going through that sort of cycle again. Or sometimes women go back. They go back to what they know to be comfortable and what they know. So I decided that I wanted to understand a little bit more about housing, and I worked with Eastlight for a couple of years on community empowerment, just giving my voice and my experience to residents who wanted to make a change in their community, but didn't know how. And from that, I realized that I wanted to do something a little bit more strategic in terms of influencing service delivery. So the end of last year in September, I joined the CIC, and I am absolutely blown away by the work that they do, that we have been doing. I can't say they anymore because I am part of them. So blown away by the work that we do, and the way that Eastlight, is a resident-led organization, and we really take time to involve our residents and take time to value their opinion and what they say and what needs to be done. I've had an opportunity to work with the Home Office as a housing officer. Currently, I work for Essex County Council in the Children and Family Services. I am going to be starting my social work degree in 2025, which I think is the culmination of all of the jobs and all of the things that I have done. But, why am I saying all of this to you? Because none of that would have been possible if I didn't have a safe home to live in. I want you all to know that the work that you do in housing, whether you're in rents, whether you're in tenancy sustainment, whether you're in repairs, whatever part of housing that you're working in, know that you have a valuable input in somebody's life, but most especially in our more vulnerable residents and clients that are going through something or have just come out of something. So thank you for all that you do. I will never say thank you to Claire Bennett enough, because I don't know, I feel like God sent her my way to kind of, give me something to aspire to. Because I used to be like, well, I can do that job. I really want that job. I wasn't saying it because I thought I was better than Claire. Obviously I didn't have the qualifications or even the know-how to do it. But actually, there was something about her, the way that she took time to just speak to me. I was like, I want to do that. I want to spend time speaking to people and helping them fix their problems, and that's really what I've been doing. And I always say that I feel like my life has become my work, because actually the things that I do on a day-to-day basis working with families is, exactly what I want to be doing. And that's exactly what a lot of you are doing for other people. And a lot of people in this meeting have done for me. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think I will end with just sharing some of the things that, obviously inspire me. I think I spoke about housing, affordable social housing for families is something that I'm really, really passionate about. My culture, my spirituality and my religion, that's really important to me. That keeps me anchored. I feel like it has got me through some really difficult situations and times, especially since I moved to Essex, where, I was by myself without my family. I was 100 miles away from the nearest family member. So being able to connect with the church, connect with a spiritual group, and also just be grounded in who I am as a person was really important during this time. Obviously, my baby is really important to me. So this first picture was actually taken in our flat in the next chapter home. My friend just kind of captured this. It was, my daughter was upset about something and I was trying to tell her, I don't know, I was trying to explain something to her and she just captured it. And it's so a nostalgic picture because, we had some really good times in that flat and I met some really incredible people in that time. But when I look at that picture and then I look at the picture next, which is how we are now, it's humbling because, to be honest, it doesn't feel like 10 years. It's felt a lot shorter in some ways, but a lot longer as well. She's grown up so quickly. She'll be finishing school soon. Excuse me. She'll be finishing her GCSEs next year and, leaving home and going off to do her own life. And I'm thankful and so grateful that we survived our ordeal because, as we know, children are, have not witnessed domestic abuse. They are actually a victim themselves in their own right. So when I share this story with you, I don't share my story alone. I share our story. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. Also, just before I go, those two pictures. So the other one is my craft, my creativity, the work that I love to do, which is doing hair and makeup, but also I create content on social media, which is, I'm not like a millionaire or anything, but I'm hoping to be one day. It's challenging, but I enjoy doing it. So I would like to say thank you once again. My apologies. When I talk about my child, she has inspired me. She's my reason. She's my why I left. She's my why I still fight to be free. She's my why as to why I have dedicated my life to empowering other women like myself and young girls like her to be safe, to look out for signs, to speak to someone, because now, the domestic abuse it's in young people, in 12-year-olds, 13, 14, 15-year-olds are hurting each other. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Eastlight, for the opportunity to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be. Thank you for the opportunity to grow in myself as a woman, have a space where I'm able to do that. Thank you for including me as an involved resident and a CIC member to be able to uplift the voices of those residents that, may be overlooked. I have found my purpose in this house. I have found my purpose in Essex, and my story, I feel, is the perfect example of when that thing that was supposed to kill you makes you stronger. I'm grateful. Thank you so much. I hope my message inspires you, maybe to take a little closer look to that residence that maybe you think something's off, or, you know, just take that 5 minutes or that extra 10 minutes to check in on them, or, you know, just reach out, because you don't know, you may be their lifeline. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will hopefully catch up with some of you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.